The Pew Research Center recently released a report indicating that 40% of households with children include a mother that is the primary breadwinner in that family. So this is actually really, really big news, especially when you consider how much that number has increased since 1960. Back in 1960, that number was only 11%. Now, obviously, there are many more opportunities for women, but one big factor playing a role in all of this is the fact that we're seeing less and less couples getting married. We're seeing more and more single mothers, and as a result, these single mothers have to go work and they have to provide for their children.
Yeah, and look, it's unfortunately good news for a couple of bad reasons. Now, the good reason is women are empowered and they're in the workforce more, and that's incredibly positive. The bad reasons are men are significantly losing economic power, and hence, relative to men, women are gaining. So let me give you context. For example, in the last 40 years, our average wage for all Americans went up about 59 bucks, which is comically little. Now, of course, the top 1% didn't go up that much. They went up astronomically, right? So it's not an issue of men versus women. It's an issue of the top 1%, honestly, versus the rest of us, because they bought our politicians, etc.
Yeah.
So now women have made progress throughout that time, but men have also gone backwards.
Yeah. So let me give you even more context to that. Especially during the recession, the field of work where we saw people losing their jobs included construction, and of course, men overwhelmingly dominate construction, and the housing market led to a disaster in that field of work. So of course men are losing their jobs and women are able to maintain their jobs, but that's not to say that women are making more money. Women are still making those ridiculous wages, stagnant wages, and men are making even less money because they're losing jobs in that, in construction fields of work that they traditionally are in. So it's really, when people look at this story and they turn it into like gender wars, it reminds me of Hunger Games. We're focusing on the middle class and working class battling against one another, as opposed to focusing on why the recession happened in the first place and why our system works the way that it does. Now, to give you some more information into the thought process among people when it comes to this, 79% of Americans reject the notion that women should return to their traditional roles, which honestly I found a little surprising. I thought that number would be lower, but I am happy that people...
I'm not surprised by that. I think the culture has changed a lot. And second of all, you have to remember, they're in families where people need the money. Mm-hmm. So if you ask a guy, hey, do you think your wife should return to a traditional role? He's like, you crazy? We'd never be able to pay the rent. That's totally right. But then I think about middle America and like this obsession with going back to a traditional nuclear family. And I've always thought that those guys were way overrepresented in the media. Mm-hmm. And in reality, look, I know, because when the right-wingers do boycotts, like 3 people boycott. Like, this isn't 1955 anymore.
But the Tea Party was a pretty big movement, and they have traditional values, so...
Look, even the Tea Party guys don't have the traditional values that you think they have. And second of all, it's a movement funded by billionaires. So it seems like a much bigger movement than it is, because all these buses show up to direct them to the right protests, etc. So I'm not surprised by that number. I'm actually surprised by the next number.
All right, 21% say the trend of more mothers of young children working outside the home is a good thing for society. So, 21% think it's fine.
So that's actually a really low number.
Yeah.
So people are still saying, hey, listen, I get it that they gotta work out there, but I don't really like it that much. I'd rather that they stayed home, at least with young children.
Okay, so let's discuss that a little bit. Of course, when a mother has to go work and provide for a family, it has negative consequences for the kid, because the mother doesn't have the time or the resources to focus on the kid's education, making sure that he or she is getting the attention that they need to succeed in school or whatever it is. So that's a totally fair point. I can totally understand that. But at the same time, you need a dual income to make ends meet. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and look, and a lot of that money goes towards the daycare or the babysitters, et cetera, that you got to hire while you're both working.
Yeah.
So none of this are pleasant options. And as Anna pointed out in the beginning, the real problem is that we're not getting the benefit of the productivity, because productivity in the last 40 years has increased dramatically in America, but the middle class has not gotten that productivity. That's why we're in this bind.
Yes. 3 in 4 adults said the increasing number of women working for pay has made it harder for parents to raise children, which I could totally understand. But also keep in mind that the reason why you're seeing this huge increase is because of single mothers, okay? Because they have no choice. They have to go out there and work. And of course, they're going to be the primary breadwinner because there's no man in the household. So 40% of births now occur out of wedlock, leading to a rise of single mother households. And just to give you some numbers, 5.1 million or 37% are married. 8.6 million or 63% are single.
So that's probably the most amazing number. I can't believe 40% of the kids are born out of wedlock now. And, you know, look, they made fun of Dan Quayle, and I don't want to get back in that old controversy, when he said when Murphy Brown had a kid out of wedlock, and that's going to encourage, because it's in the pop culture, it's going to encourage people to do so. And I said, look, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. You know, if people want to do that, bless their hearts. On the other hand, he's right. It is going to become more and more prevalent. And I remember at the time, people were like, oh, you're crazy. But I'm not crazy. It turns out it's true. Mm-hmm. Now 40% out of wedlock. Now, there's a great number of reasons. Obviously, it's not just Murphy Brown. It's a tiny portion of it. It's more symbolic than anything else. And, you know, people, of course, are worried that obviously women who are single mothers get paid and at a much lower rate and have economic situations that are far more dire on average than married couples. And by the way, for moms, and they got to come home, and this is other studies that we've shown you on the show, and they still do their share or more of the housework, even if they're working in an office. So that, you know, as our graphic here says, they got to, you know, bring home the bacon, they got to cook it, they got to still have to do all this. And one thing that's really an interesting trend, though, and I guess positive for women, but also concerning for men, is that now women get master's degrees at a significantly higher rate than men do. So,
yeah,
you know, so that means that the shift has not gotten to the CEOs, et cetera, yet, but it will. Mm-hmm. I mean, if the people that are more educated in this country are women, eventually the people running the country will be women.